And we are back with the return of another show. We had the MLB show come back last night. Now we have the return of Joe's Knows Basketball Episode 1. I'm Giacomo Imperiale, joined here by Dominic Urbafina and two new faces at the bottom of the screen, Isaiah Lewison and Avery Stetz. Welcome on to the show, guys. How's it going?
Going good, Jock. How you do?
Good to hear. We have an action-packed episode this week. We're going to be going over all of the off-season acquisitions that were made. We're going to be going over some early East and West power rankings, teams we think where we can see in different spots, and we're going to finish it off with some dark horses and some contenders that really stick out to us early in the season. So we're going to start off, though, with some free agent news. The first off-season recap that we want to cover is the Bradley Beal trade, arguably one of the biggest trades. So, Dom, you want to start us off? Any comments about Bradley Beal going to the Suns?
I feel like the Suns have been trying to win a championship for so long. Trading for all these players. Hopefully, not hopefully, maybe Bradley Beal will be the one. But I mean, we'll see. He's a great player, so we'll see.
Yeah, Isaiah, anything to add to that?
I think Bradley Beal will be a great acquisition for the Suns. Definitely something that the Suns need to go along with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, the two stars that they already have. And I believe it'll get them into a great top 3 spot.
Yeah, anything else here?
Certainly a great pickup. Definitely helps with the pieces of Devin Booker and KD already on the team. And as long as those three can stay healthy, I think they got a pretty good shot at coming out of the West.
Yeah, most definitely is a very great pickup. But here's the question I want to bring up early to the table to you guys is, do we think the Suns, with the lack of depth that they have, I'm looking at the roster right now, there's not a whole lot of depth. I mean, obviously you have those 3 stars in the starting rotation, but in that bench role, I mean, that's kind of where the Suns thrived last year. They had a lot of depth with Cam Johnson coming off the bench and a bunch of those guys. Do we think that this move to acquire another star and losing some of that depth is going to really just blemish a lot of the Suns' title hopes this year?
I think it will be definitely a problem. I mean, you need depth throughout the whole entire season. A lot of games, people can get injured anytime, especially Kevin Durant. He's had some big injuries before, and I see all these other teams with big superstars, but also have depth, and I think that those teams will come out on top if because the Suns have no depth.
Definitely. Either you guys want to add anything else there? Or are we all good that?
I want to add on to what Dom said. The depth we saw last year with Kevin Durant getting injured. Again, if that happens this year, I don't know if they have it. They traded away one of their most valuable pieces in Cameron Payne to the Milwaukee Bucks. That we definitely need to see how that works for them in the depth category.
Most definitely going to be an interesting way to see how that one's going to pan out. The next trade we want to cover is one that flew under the radar a little bit. We're going to start with the Warriors fan himself at the bottom of my screen, talking about Chris Paul going to his Warriors. Obviously, that role is going to be very undefined until we see what he's going to be for this team early in the season. But Avery, you want to talk about this trade and what it means to Golden State?
Yeah, I certainly think moving Jordan Poole out to clear some cap space to keep Draymond Green back with the core, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, certainly helps Golden State. And the addition of Chris Paul adds a little bit of a mixture to the types of offenses that they can run. Obviously, no one knows if CP is going to start or he's going to run the bench unit, but it definitely adds sort of mystery to teams that are going to play Golden State. And if they put him on the bench, that's 2 different kinds of offenses that we could be looking at throughout the season.
Isaiah?
Think it's a great trade. It's great to have someone like CP3, someone who's great at handling the ball in the pick and roll space. Adds to the length of the offense for the Warriors. You got Curry, you got Klay Thompson coming off those off-ball screens, and now you have CP3 handling the ball with a guy like Kevon Looney and Draymond Green.
Dom?
I don't love it, but I don't hate it. I can see CP3 as a pass first guard, just trying to get he's not going to score a lot of points, but trying to get Curry and Klay open for those shots, and they can win a lot of games doing that.
Yeah, I mean, the move definitely makes sense to me, but if I'm being quite honest, I don't really see the reason why. I mean, obviously Chris Paul is a great player, but I'm more excited for some of these young Warriors players. I mean, they just drafted Trace Jackson-Davis. Shout out Willie K, big Indiana fan. I mean, he's going to be a big presence in this front court, I think. and along with the young Jonathan Kuminga and a couple other young guys on this team, I'm looking more forward to the future than just adding a aging Chris Paul into a team that they won the finals and they could win it again, but I'm not the biggest fan of this move. More just for the future of this team. I would say now we're going to move into the last big offseason move that we want to talk about, which is Damian Lillard to the Bucks. Just happened about 2 days ago. By the time we're filming this video, in my opinion, I think this is probably the biggest offseason move that was made. And Dom, you want to kick us off with this one?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting this at all. Raptors fan, hearing all this news, Raptors are front runners. I was getting excited, but now he's on the Bucks. Him and Giannis, they're going to be unstoppable. It's pretty hard to guard. But I there is some competition in the East. I think the Celtics, definitely could keep it close to them. I'm definitely not counting them out.
Isaiah?
Shoot, what can I say? Great acquisition from the Bucks. You got a guy like Damian Lillard taking threes from the logo. You got Giannis going into the paint, dunking on everyone. It's just great.
Avery?
It's a great pickup. Now the Bucks have somebody that they can run their offense through besides just Giannis, and Dame can kind of run the floor when Giannis is taking a rest. And I don't know how you're going to stop two all-time great players on the floor at the same time, especially at the level that they play at.
Yeah, and the one thing nobody highlighted around this Bucks team is that they still have Chris Middleton and Brook Lopez, two key role players from their title run, two guys that really make their presence known. And this youth on this Bucks team really isn't bad either. I'm a big fan of Ty Washington, second-year guard out of Kentucky. I think he can be a spark plug off that bench from Milwaukee. So, Jack put up the banner. Are the Bucks a team to beat? And we'll transition into that segment. But I think that the Bucks really are that big, dangerous threat in the East. But we're going to switch over, I think, to the Western Conference first. And we're going to talk about where we see some teams in the West and where we think that they're going to match up within their conference. So, Avery, you want to kick us off with who you're seeing in the Western Conference standings?
Yeah, I obviously I put the defending champs at number one, the Nuggets. They are coming off their first championship in 40 years or ever. They have arguably one of the best players, if not the best player in the NBA, Nikola Jokic. That offense is just so explosive, especially with Jamal Murray. And then the Suns coming in number two. If those three main guys, Durant, Booker, and Beal, can stay healthy, they can definitely come out of the West. And then Golden State should be interesting with Chris Paul. But it's looking, especially leading the young guys. And then the Kings, young team, first playoff series win since 2006. Grizzlies, Mavs, and Lakers can compete for the 5, 6, and 7, and then pretty much everybody else is trying to play catch up.
I'm going to go first here. I want to jump in. The Warriors, I get your Warriors fan a little high. This Kings team, to me, I get that the Warriors did beat them in the playoffs. I'm a big fan of this young Kings team. De'Aaron Fox is just going to keep getting better. I loved what I saw out of Sabonis, and Malik Monk really took great strides in that postseason as well. So, me personally, I would put the Kings over the Warriors. I think the Warriors are a little high. I get you're a Warriors fan. Again, another team is the Memphis Grizzlies. When they're healthy, this team can play with anyone, especially Jaren Jackson Jr. holding down that front court. So, I'm not so sure with the Warriors being so high up, but I don't hate it. But it's not my personal opinion. Tom or Isaiah, when you guys want to hop in, talk about what you guys saw and what you guys heard from Avery.
Not much to say here. I kind of agree with you. I don't think the Warriors should be that high. There's definitely some better teams that could definitely have a better season. But I could see where he's coming from.
Isaiah, anything else to add?
Same thing. Dom kind of covered everything. So did you. That Kings team was dangerous last year, just got even better. One thing I just want to say, where are the Utah Jazz?
Yeah.
You got Walker Kessler, Lauri Markkanen, Jordan Clarkson. You got a great addition in John Collins. That's just the sleeper in the Western Conference.
Most definitely. I'm going to back Isaiah here. I was a big fan of this Jazz team after just seeing how Lauri Markkanen was able to take those great strides, moving just up and up. I mean, he looked like an all-star. He deserved to be an all-star, and he was. And he really could be a centerpiece for this Jazz frontcourt for years to come. And I think with no further comments, we're going to move it on into the Eastern Conference. Dom and Isaiah, you guys did this one. You guys want to talk about where you guys see some teams lining up in the East?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll start this one off. So, I guess I'll go, top 8 so far. Number 1, Milwaukee, acquired Dame. Can't really get much better than that. And at number 2, I have the Celtics. I think the Celtics could come out as one. That Drew Holiday trade. Really love that. And I think Jason Tatum he's a wonderful player. And then at 3, the 76ers. Could be a little bit controversial. A little bit, stuff's going on with James Harden. We don't know if he's staying, leaving, or whatever he's doing. So, I'm leaving them there for now with James Harden, but without him, I think they dropped down a couple spots. At 4, I had the Cavs. I think they have a great team. Donovan Mitchell, I think, great player, really leading this team. They're also pretty young too. I think, and some young great players. For 5, I have the Knicks. Jalen Brunson had a great year last year, and I think he'll keep it going. Number 6, I have the Heat. I mean, it's same thing as we always see every year. Jimmy Butler pretty much putting the team on his back. And number 7, I got the Raptors. Big Raptors fan myself. I could see them higher than the Heat. We'll see how the season goes. I think this could have a big year here. And then at number 8, I got the Hawks. Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, great backcourt. You see them winning a decent amount of games.
Yeah, I'm going to hop in here real quick, and I'm going to, Dom, I want you to put the Raptors ahead of the Heat. I mean, we've seen how lackadaisical this Heat team is in the regular season, and I'm fully committed to this Raptors team. I think that they will finish with a better record than the Miami Heat. Now, honestly, when I first heard you say the Knicks are going to be in 5th, I thought you were going to I thought that was a really overreach, but listening to the reasoning, I think that that's around the spot. I wouldn't be surprised if the Knicks dropped down to like a 6 or 7 seed. I'm a Knicks fan myself, but the inconsistency of Julius Randle is still there in the regular season and postseason. In clutch time, Julius Randle, he disappears. I mean, we've seen it time and time again. But I mean, Isaiah's sitting here. I'm wondering where the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, I want some Mikal Bridges love on this show. Were they even close to the top 8 for you, or how far?
I mean, not really. A couple spots down. I mean, Mikal Bridges is nice. Cam Johnson's he's also pretty good, but there's no one else really. I mean, Nick Claxton's a decent center. I do like Cam Thomas, but it's they're all right. They're all right.
I mean, I really think that you're overlooking this Nets team a lot. I think Nick Claxton is better than a decent center. I mean,
maybe I'm overlooking him, but that's where I got him.
I think you are. I mean, and then they brought in some guys that, they're not the greatest players in the world. Guys like Darius Bazley, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Royce O'Neal. Just some role players to help center. I think Mikal Bridges can be that superstar. I mean, we saw it in the short span that we had at the end of the season last year in Brooklyn. He looks like he can be a really good number 1 guy, especially, I think I want to talk about this a little bit more. I think that the Nets could be looking for some kind of trade at the deadline to acquire a second star to put next to Mikal Bridges, because I think that this Nets team really can build around him and can be competing for a playoff spot around him. Isaiah, you want to talk about that team a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. I think you're going in the right direction with what you said. The acquisitions in the free agency pool for the Brooklyn Nets was amazing. You got Royce O'Neal coming in, a great defensive guy, can definitely help out with Mikal. He's able to take the weight off of his shoulders, able to develop on offense instead of having to carry that defensive side. Cam Johnson's coming back. You got Dom. I'm sorry to say, Nick Claxton might just be a top 15 center. If you look back to that Philadelphia 76ers Nets playoff series, he held down Joel Embiid, and that's MVP Joel Embiid. Nick Claxton was doing great. I think they come back better than ever and honestly get a playoff spot and not just a play-in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a back Isaiah here. Nick Claxton, 2 blocks a game in that postseason series against the Sixers. It was 1.8, just under 2. But I mean, he really did hold a great defensive presence, and I'm fully in agreement that Nick Claxton is a top 15 big in the league. But I want to shift off the Nets to a little bit. The one thing I want to talk about, I'll let Avery hop in here first, is the Celtics being so high. It doesn't appease me, especially with the lack of front court presence to me. I mean, you're putting a lot of faith in the health of Kristaps Porzingis, and behind him, you're relying on a really, really old Al Horford. So I'm not so sure if I'm ready to put the Celtics that high, but I want to hear what Avery has to say about this team.
Certainly think that they can be that high, but it does depend on the health of Porzingis and how well Al Horford performs throughout the season. They did give up Robert Williams and Malcolm Brogdon for Drew Holiday, which is some of their size that they had last year. But I do think that their offense can now revolve around Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and their defense can kind of pick it up with Drew Holiday. But I do see them as a 2 seed behind the Bucks, or maybe even a low 3 if James Harden plays this year for the Sixers.
I'm just struggling when Lamar Stevens and Luke Cornett are your backup bigs. I mean, it's really terrible. I mean, I get Tatum's a great player and all. Jaylen Brown, I think he deserved every penny of his extension. I mean, the backcourt, no doubt, is great, but this front court, I mean, they play a team like the Sixers. Like Joel Embiid is going to have a feast against this Celtics team. No one on that team can stop him, and especially I'm not a big Porzingis guy. As a Knicks fan, he's great and all. He's not a great defender. He's a great shooter. He can space the floor very well for the Celtics team, which, I mean, I'm just very, very concerned with the Celtics bigs and their lack of defense in the front court. So, Dom, you want to hop in? You want to try and defend your point here of why the Celtics should be this high?
I still think they should be that high. I mean, you're banking on an injury here from Porzingis. I'm sure he'll get injured, here and there, but I don't think he's gonna have that big of an injury as you're like saying. So I don't think it should be that much of a problem. They've always had Al Horford. Al Horford has done, maybe not that good on defense, but definitely helped on offense. And I think, Jason Player is, one of a kind player, and, pairing him up with Drew Holiday and Jaylen Brown, it's going to be a problem.
But still, here's my thing is that even I'm not saying if Porzingis isn't injured. Let's say he plays all 82 games. Luke Cornett and Lamar Stevens are your backup power forward and big man. I mean, I think that there's some real concern with this Boston Celtics front court.
You just forget about Al Horford? You just talked about him.
An older Al Horford that is aging.
He's the backup. I mean, he's the backup.
In the corner and shoots threes. That's all he does. He has no defensive presence. He's just in the corner and shoots threes. He's 42 years old. He's old.
I mean,
he cannot defend.
Luke Cornett, and he's also 7'2". He's a big fella. Could definitely make some plays if they need him.
Are we really trying to defend the fact that Luke Cornett is somewhat decent? This guy's a bum, Dom. He's a bum.
All right, whatever.
Al Horford MVP season. I don't know about that one.
They also got a great player in the draft, Jordan Walsh. I think he's a great defensive player. Could definitely make a big impact on this team. I think they're going to be a great defensive team all around. Maybe a weakness at center, obviously, but everywhere else, I think they're clamping.
I mean, I'll give you that one. I think Jordan Walsh was a great prospect coming out of Arkansas out of the draft. I mean, he really is a great playmaker. We saw that in the March Madness tournament and how good he can be. I think the last thing that we really want to highlight in the Eastern Conference, and the one thing I really want to point out is, Dom, where are the Indiana Pacers? I mean, this is just such a young core. Just traded for Obi Toppin, and Tyrese Halliburton really just looked better and better with each game. So I'm really concerned of where the Indiana Pacers are gonna match up with this Eastern Conference.
I got the Pacers around like the 10th seed. I don't think they're that good compared to these other teams, but they could definitely prove me wrong.
I'm going to disagree here. I think that this Pacers team is ready to take a big leap this year. I think Tyrese Halliburton, I mean, we talked about it last year. We had a lot of clips of me saying how good Tyrese Halliburton is, and I'm still very firm that I believe that this guy is an absolute star. I think that he can really be the number one option on a playoff team. I think that they could end up around that 7-8 seed. I think that they are really that good of a team. Isaiah, Avery, either of you guys want to jump in? Any opinions here about the Indiana Pacers?
I'll jump in. I do think Dom is right. They are still a pretty young team. They did trade for Obi Toppin, which certainly helps, but they don't have that much experience coming together as a core and kind of building from there. So if they want to make a leap this year, they're going to have to rely on Tyrese Halliburton and Obi Toppin to kind of elevate this team. And Miles Turner definitely has to step it up certainly on defense more than he has if they want to be a serious playoff team this year.
Yeah,
if I jump in real quick, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to talk about the Pacers drafted amazing. You got Jarris Walker from Houston, does it great on the defensive side. Absolutely amazing at cutting to the basket. He can add to this great pick and roll offense of the Indiana Pacers. Like Giacomo said, Tyrese Halliburton, one of a kind player. Man, just can't talk about how much he does. You also got Bilal Koulibaly, who played with Victor Wembanyama in France. He has the experience that can get him into the finals. This man is 18, 19 years old, doing what he does in the French league, which is one of the hardest leagues that are not the NBA or the Euro League. And this can easily translate into the NBA, making the Pacers, like Giacomo said, a 7th or 8th seed.
One thing to point out is Bilal Koulibaly is actually on the Washington Wizards. They made a trade on draft night, so he is no longer on the roster. But one thing I do want to point out about their drafting is Isaiah Wong is on this team. I mean, Isaiah Wong was one of my favorite prospects coming out of Miami. We talked to him about on the college show last year in the Geico Classic on the college show, and Isaiah Wong can shoot the lights out. You add him to a young backcourt with Benedict Mathurin, Tyrese Halliburton, and they just picked up an NBA champion in Bruce Bowen. I mean, I think this Pacers team could be pretty legit. Maybe not this year, but in a year or two that they could really just make some really big strides. And I think with that, we're going to transition into one of our last segments of the day. Some dark horse teams, some teams that we think are really slept on that can make some noise either in the play-in or at the bottom of the playoffs, squeaking in there. So, Dom, I'm going to let you start us off. What is one dark horse team that you have?
Yeah, I really wanted to start this one off. Give me the Raptors. I mean, great team. In my opinion, had one of the best drafts. Grady Dick, Marquise Noel, a really underrated guy. I think this team can make a big leap this year. Scotty Barnes, I think he's gonna have a breakout year. I think he's gonna win Most Improved Player. I think they're gonna have to rely on him with Fred VanVleet gone. We also got Dennis Schroeder. I love this team. It's OG Anunoby, Defensive Player of the Year candidate. Love him. Pascal Siakam, obviously, one of the best scorers on the team. I think they'll have a great year this year.
Avery, I'll throw to you.
I'm gonna switch it out west. I'm gonna go with the Clippers. They didn't succeed much because their two stars, Paul George and Kawhi, they can never stay healthy. And Kawhi's coming back off injury. Paul George is coming back healthy. And I think if they can stay healthy with the core that they have, and especially with Westbrook finally playing like he used to play, I think this team could be dangerous late in the season and certainly sneak up into the playoffs in the West.
Yeah, real quick, Isaiah, before you go ahead. The banner popped up there. I mean, James Harden to the Clippers could be a real possibility. I mean, this Clippers team, especially if they get him with the aggravation that is going on in Philadelphia right now, could be a very dangerous pick to win it all in the West. I mean, they got a lot of firepower on the team if they can get him. But Isaiah, I'll throw it to you for your pick.
Well, my hot take is the New Orleans Pelicans being one of the best teams in the Western Conference. We know that Zion Williamson, CJ McCollum, Jose Alvarado, they have not been in the best health in the past couple of years. But it's great to say that the New Orleans Pelicans are working around that, and they're getting a new team athletic doctor to help in that. So I think with those guys being load managed through the entire season, Zion's going to come back healthy. I know they say it every year. He's looking bigger, better, and stronger. A guy like CJ McCollum is ready to come back onto the court. He's ready to show everyone what he can do, show what he did in the Portland Trailblazers day, and I think that the Pelicans will be great this year.
I'm going to back Isaiah here. I'm a big believer in the Pelicans as well. I think that they drafted extremely well. And building around Zion, in my opinion, really is the right move. I mean, we've seen how good he can be when he is a healthy player. For my pick, though, moving into that, I was going to talk about the Pacers, but I feel like we kind of already touched on them. I'm a big fan of their draft class, big fan of their young future. So I'm going to pick a different team. I'm going to go shout out Matt Freeman. I think people are sleeping on the Memphis Grizzlies this year. I think that this team is being forgotten of how good they are. I mean, obviously you have John Morant in that backcourt, but the one thing I want to point out is that they drafted Gigi Jackson, one of my favorite prospects coming into the draft, super athletic forward out of South Carolina. I mean, this guy is such a spark plug. You can go to him for any kind of scoring right in the starting lineup or off the bench. I mean, I think that the problem last year was outside of John Morant. I mean, they had great shooting, but not a lot of an interior kind of presence, a lot of bully ball. And I think that Gigi Jackson can be that for the Memphis Grizzlies, help them get some different looks on offense. And I think that this Grizzlies team really can be very good this year. So I'd say I'm pretty high on them going into the season now. I think we're going to move into our very last segment. Some teams that we think are really going to disappoint this year. Some teams that we really think are just not worth all the hype, very overrated. And we'll go the other way around. So Isaiah, I'll throw to you first.
The team that I think will be extremely overrated this year are the Philadelphia 76ers. I think they won't be good at all after the trade deadline. Honestly, you still have guys like Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid there, but it's looking like it'll be a mid-season trade with James Harden. That's your main ball handler. And with guys like Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris, and Joel Embiid, I just don't think that's enough to stay top 3 in the conference like you had. That's dropping you down to a low table 8th to play-in seed. I just don't think they have enough.
Most definitely. A really interesting point there with Harden and the frustrations in Philly. And then some of those other pieces that repeatedly have not been able to get it done in the postseason. But Avery, I'll throw it to you next.
I certainly think that people are putting the Mavs a little too high. The Kyrie and Luka, they are looking to improve their chemistry over the offseason and try and make a run. And especially with the addition of Grant Williams is helpful, but it all depends if Kyrie Irving's going to play. Like this guy hasn't shown up for multiple games last season, just walked out in certain games, just sat because he didn't feel like playing. And with these new rules, he's going to have to play if he wants to win another ring. And obviously he doesn't have Bron, but he's got a great partner in Luka. And I think if he plays, then they can win, but it all depends if Kyrie's going to play. I don't think the Mavs are as good of a team as people say they are for that reason.
I'm going to hop in here real quick, and I'm just going to straight up disagree. I think we said it last year. I think this is Luka's year. I think Luka is really finally going to win that MVP, put it all together, and have a competing team, especially because of the young draft class. I'm going to go back to the rookies again. Derek Lively, the center out of Duke, a very sneaky, underrated big that I think came out of this draft, as well as Mike Miles Jr., the best junior in the country out of TCU. I mean, I'm a big fan of this Mavs team now. Do I think that they will finish? I mean, let's just say I think that they'll be bottom of the playoff race, but I don't think that they're overrated at all. I mean, if you want to put them anywhere from the 6 to the 9 or 10 seed, I think that is a good range of where you can put them. I'd go as low as the 10 because I still think that they're a playoff team. But I'm actually a pretty decently big fan of this Mavericks team going into the season.
You know, I was actually going to choose the Mavs for this one. You know, I totally agree with Avery. I think bringing in Kyrie was just, not the best idea. It's like the best player to bring in for Luka would be a center. I feel like I feel like you could play well with the center a lot. But I'm gonna go with the Miami Heat on this one. You know, it's been the same thing for the past years. Jimmy Butler's carrying them. Taking them, he's carrying them in the playoffs. Having them go far, but I just don't see it happening this year. There's only so much he can do, and it's going to take a toll.
Isaiah, I saw you shaking your head. You want to hop in here real quick?
Oh no, I was actually shaking my head to agree with Dom. I think the Heat are actually not going to be good at all. We saw them. They were an 8 seed last year, and they only picked it up in the playoffs, I believe. That's because Tyler Hero was not healthy. We saw that in that first in that first round against the Milwaukee Bucks, they were not doing that good. And Jimmy Butler was able to pick up the pieces. Bam Adebayo, I think everyone fell into their role. Gabe Vincent was able to come into the starting lineup. Max Strus was able to take the role of a Tyler Hero and was a lights out shooter. I think Dom is completely correct.
Most definitely. I'm a little in the middle on them. I'm not sure what they're gonna be, so I'm not gonna comment, make any big deal of it. I don't hate it. I don't love it. I'm very neutral on it. But the one team that is I think gonna spark a little bit of a fight here, that I think is very, very overrated going into the season, is Avery's Golden State Warriors. Now, I really don't think that this is the third team in the West. I think that they're just not that good. I mean, an aging Steph Curry is gonna be great. We all know that. But just the pieces that they have around him, I'm just not. I don't think that they're going to compete for a championship. I'm a big fan. Like Isaiah said, I think that this Pelicans team is going to be a really big threat in the West. I think the Grizzlies are going to be very good. I think that the Mavericks are going to compete for that spot too. So now, I'm not saying that the Warriors can't finish third in the West. I'm saying that I think that they are aging and overrated and old.
Guac, I am going to disagree with you here, but the thing you have to remember is they're old, but they have far more experience than most of the West besides LeBron. They still have a core group that's been on the same team for 13 plus years, and they've won multiple championships. They won 4 championships with that core alone. So I don't think they need to change any scenery now. Yeah, some of the younger guys do have to pick it up, like Kaminga and Moody, and the addition to Trey Jackson Davis is huge. It'll definitely elevate the offense, and Chris Paul can certainly lead the younger guys. But I don't think they're necessarily a 1 or 2, but a 3 to 4 certainly fits right for Golden State, based on what I've seen from the off season.
Yeah, see, I mean, you brought up Trace Jackson Davis. I mean, he was great in college, but we see it a lot with these slower college bigs. Trace Jackson Davis is not a really athletic guy. I mean, he's a bigger, slower, big, traditional guy that we see coming out of college. And I'm not so sure if he can really handle a Warriors front court that, to be quite frankly, is very weak. I mean, you got rid of James Wiseman I think you guys should have stuck with him for a little bit longer, but clearly the Warriors front office thought otherwise. So they really lack in that front court presence. So I'm really not sold on this Golden State team early into the season. Now I'm going to open it up if any of you guys want to go back to the show.
Give me 1 sec. You know, I actually think the Warriors will be pretty good this season. I don't think they'll be that bad. You know, I feel like chemistry. You know, they probably have some of the best chemistry in the league. I think that really plays a big effect on your team, especially later into the year and especially in the playoffs. And I feel like a team that might have better players but not as much chemistry, they could beat them for sure. I think Curry's gonna have a big year.
Yeah, I'm gonna bounce with Dom. The Warriors had the best starting 5 last season, by a mile last year, with Curry, Thompson, Green, Wiggins, and Looney on the floor. No other starting 5 even came close last year. Now, obviously, with the addition of Chris Paul, that can kind of shake things up. But if you throw Chris Paul on the bench, you can run 2 different kinds of offenses. You can run a slow, more technical one with Chris Paul, and then you can run your explosive one with Curry and Clay stretching the floor, and Draymond kind of facilitating, and Looney down low, and Wiggins in the mid range, kind of securing the boards and keeping the offense alive. But they have to fix their road game issues in their defense if they want to get back on top.
It's definitely. I have my view of, I think that their lack of front court is really going to be so detrimental for them. But clearly, Dom and Avery think otherwise. So now, before we send it off, I'm going to let you guys talk first. Any other teams that you guys want to bring up? Any other points or arguments that you guys want to bring to the table?
I do feel like Tom, go ahead.
Oh, me? I just wanted to say, Giacomo, this will be very good for you to hear. I believe that the New York Knicks will be a top 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. It might be a little bit of a stretch, but I think Julius Randle will finally fall into his role as the Robin to to Jalen Brunson's Batman. And I believe that those two will become one of the best two-way punches in New York Knicks history. We saw John Starks and Patrick Ewing. That will be, I think, one of the best duos. And you got Josh Hart holding it down on the defensive side. You got Dante DiVincenzo that came in. RJ Barrett will fall into his role this year. Emmanuel Quickly will be a great addition off the bench for them, as he also did it last year. We saw Julius Randle be an absolute threat in that first game of the Cleveland series, but he did get injured, which saw his numbers decline. But I think if he keeps it exactly like that, Knicks are top 3 lock.
I mean, as a Knicks fan, I think it's a little bit of a stretch. Do I doubt it? No, because I'm going to go through 3 things that the Knicks need. The 3 things that the Knicks need. And I don't like the banner here at all. I think Mitchell Robinson is a great defensive center. He was top 5 in blocks per game last year. He's a great defensive presence in that front court. But the 3 things that the Knicks need is, number 1, the health of Mitchell Robinson. Number 2, RJ Barrett's efficiency on the 3 ball has to go up. He has to be taking better shots and has to be shooting at a more efficient clip from the 3-point line. And then number 3, Isaiah, you said it yourself, is the consistency of Julius Randle, not only in the regular season, but in the playoffs. He has to be able to elevate that play. And if those 3 things all do happen, for sure, the Knicks can compete to be a 3-4 seed in the East. Do I doubt it could happen? Absolutely, I doubt it, but it is definitely a possibility.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in here. A team that I like, actually, the Lakers. I'm actually a big fan of them. I think they have some of the best depth in the league. They're gonna need that with LeBron pretty old and AD who's very injury prone. So that will definitely work out well for them. But I could see them winning some big games and making it far.
Yeah, real quick, if I can hop in, I'm going to back Dom here a little bit. I like the Jalen Hood-Schifino pick. A lot of people are clowning it. I think he's not as bad. I think it was a little bit of a reach, but I think it still is a good fit, a good pick that fits this Lakers team, as well as you're bringing Christian Wood, a struggling big man, but he can definitely help. And Gabe Vincent, another guy we saw who was a big spark plug for that Miami Heat team. So I'm going to back up Dom here. I think that this Lakers team, I don't think that they're going to be great, but I think that they're going to be a lot better than a lot of people think that they're going to be. So before I give my last team, anyone else want to bring anything else to the table?
I do want to go back to your Grizzly take earlier. You said that people were kind of sleeping on them. You have to remember, John Morant's suspended for the first 25 games of the season. So, yeah, they did pretty well without him a few years ago. But how is this going to affect them with a new team and Dillon Brooks is gone now, so they don't really have the same looking. That removing Dillon Brooks is probably for the best, but without their star player, they're probably going to have a rough start to the first 25 games of the season.
We saw it last year. I believe there was the stat that the Grizzlies played better and had a better record without John Morant on the floor because Desmond Bane gets more shots. You get guys like David Roddy gets more minutes. There's a lot of guys. This Grizzlies team has a very, very deep roster. When I'm talking about depth, Grizzlies match up with almost any team in the league with the amount of depth that they have. So, listen, do I think that they're going to be the same team without John Morant? Absolutely not. You're missing your key superstar. But I think that they can hover around that middle to lower tier in the West until he gets back, and then they can be that team that I think is just going to explode and cause all that noise in the West. But no, definitely a pretty decent point to bring up that they're missing their key player for the first 25 games. And I believe that's it from the 3 of you. I want to bring one more team to the table before we send it off, and that is the Orlando Magic. See, I'm a big Magic fan going into this year. I think that they drafted really well, along with you give Paolo Banchero another year to mature. I'm a big fan of Anthony Black. I think that Jet Howard was a pretty good pickup in the draft, and I think that this Magic team, now I don't think that they could be anything special, but I think right there, I think that the Magic are going to take some really positive strides in the right direction this year. They're having a younger core. They're going to see guys like Cole Anthony, I think, is going to take a pretty big leap this year. I just think that this Magic team could really turn the tide for Orlando this year.
I think they're probably one of, if not the youngest team in the league. They're super young, so I don't think their leap will be this year, but definitely soon.
Definitely. Avery, Isaiah, anything else to add to that?
No, you're pretty spot on with the young core, and Banchero is definitely going to mature a lot more, and it should be pretty fun to watch this year. See if they take the right steps forward.
And I believe that will do it for the first episode of Joe's Knows NBA. Once again, you can follow us on TikTok at St. Joe Sports Shows. We're going to be cutting out, posting all the clips on there and some of the best moments from all of our shows, not even this one, every other type of show. But I believe that will do it if there's no last comments from any of my other analysts here. And there are not. So I'm going to send it off. I'm Giacomo Priali once again, joined by Avery Stetz, Isaiah Lewison, and Dominic Garbafino. We're signing off for now.